So today I am going to do I don't know whether it's a tag, I don't know whether it's just something someone requested, but I am going to do my top 10 classics. I think people are deceived as to how many classics I've actually read, because I think people overestimate my ability with classics. But yes, I am going to show you my top 10. I have read 10, I think, only just, maybe. But yes, let's just get on with it. So in no particular order, the first book I just picked up was The Scarlett Letter by Nathaniel Hawthorne. This book, if you minus the introduction, which you should not read because it's really long and really convoluted and I just hate the introduction, the actual book was freaking incredible, and it basically follows the story of this girl called Hester Prynne, or Prynne, however you want to pronounce it, and she has an affair with a minister and she gets trialed and she is made to wear a red A on her wardrobe to signify adulterer, and it's all about her sort of bearing her punishment in silence, and it is fabulous. So this is one of my top 10. Again, no particular order. The second one I have is Much Ado About Nothing by William Shakespeare. I had to get some Shakespeare in here at some point. I could have picked any Shakespeare play. I think Much Ado About Nothing is quite, it's not as well known as some of the other plays, and it is hilarious. It's basically about these two people who vow that they're never going to marry, and then they end up actually marrying. I haven't actually finished this, but I don't know whether they marry each other. I don't know what happens in the end, but just from reading 3/4 of it, it is fabulous, and I love the iambic pentameter and the language that Shakespeare uses and just the entire concept. Shakespeare is a babe, and I love him, and you should totally love him too. Another classic that I really enjoyed was 1984 by George Orwell. I don't actually have a physical copy of this book because I got it from the library and read it. But yes, it is a sort of dystopian kind of thing where this main protagonist, Winston, is trying to fight against the system, and he falls in love, and he's not supposed to be in love, his emotions are supposed to be controlled, and they're just watched everywhere by Big Brother, and it's, it was so good, apart from this one teeny tiny little bit where he was reading this like textbook on politics and it nearly killed me. I had to read it out loud, but aside from that, it was extremely good. The next classic I picked up was I Captured the Castle by Dodie Smith. Now, I picked this up on a whim, really. I picked it up because I liked the cover and because the spine sort of jumped out at me. I don't know how that spine jumped out at me. It might have been the typography, I don't know. But I read this ages ago. This was probably one of the earliest classics I read. I bought it on holiday, and it just follows the story of this girl called Cassandra, and it's kind of like a growing up novel, but it's set more, I mean, I think it's after the Regency era, but it's just, I can't remember much about it. There's some scene where her auntie or something, she's like a naturist, or I read it so long ago I can't remember much of it, but all I remember is that it was freaking amazing. So yes, I might have to reread this actually now thinking about it. The next book I have is The Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger, and if you guys have seen my review or follow me on Twitter, Tumblr, any of the random social media sites, you will know how much I adored this book, and at first I didn't think I was going to, so just this book follows Holden Caulfield, who's been kicked out of Pensy Prep, which is a private school, for not getting good grades, and he basically wanders around New York for like 3 days because he doesn't want to confront his parents, and it's just all about him, and the characterization in this book is so good. It's amazing, and I love it, and I thought I was going to hate it, and I'm so glad that I loved it, and I can't wait to reread it. Another book that I don't have a physical copy of is Of Mice and Men by John Steinbeck. This book, most of people in England who study GCSE who studied this book will probably disagree with me on this, because everyone I know hated this, but I adored this book. It was just the first thing that kind of got me fully into the literature canon, because before my first GCSE year in year 9, I hadn't really thought about reading many classics. I was like, literary canon, what is this foreign concept? But oh my goodness, and our teacher for English literature, when we were being taught this specific book for GCSE, was amazing. She is the best teacher I have ever had for English. Just the whole concept of Mice and Men just made me cry, and it was just so well written, and I loved it so much, and I don't care what anybody says, I love it. Next I have The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald, another one that I read firsthand and I was like, But now, after rereading passages of it, I found out that I probably skim read most of it last time, but I mean, it's not very plot heavy, but what plot there is like amazing, and all of the description is just so beautiful, and F. Scott Fitzgerald is just like he's a poet. He is a poet. And yes, if you don't know about The Great Gatsby by now, you should probably pick it up. Again, another one I don't have a physical copy of is The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. Now, I remember reading this around about a little bit afterwards, reading Pride and Prejudice, and my godmother recommended it to me. I go to my godmother for pretty much every book recommendation I need in the classics department, and it was incredible. Just the whole premise of the book, it's about this beautiful, wonderful, aloof kind of guy called Dorian Gray, and he's this model, and he has a picture painted of him, and instead of him aging, the picture ages, and he does a load of terrible things on the way, and he ends up just driving himself insane, and there's this wonderful scene right at the end of the book where he's just going crazy, and it's incredible. It is great. Oscar Wilde, good job. Next I have Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. This was probably the first classic I ever read, and it is what got me into classics. And I know that a lot of people say this and that Pride and Prejudice got them into classics, but it was just so witty and wonderful and funny, and it made me realise that classics didn't have to be these big clunky books that are like 1,000,000 pages long and really hard to read. They can be fun, and this book was fun to read, and I loved the characterisation. Lizzie Bennet is such a feisty character. Mr. Bingley, I just want to hug him constantly. Just constantly. Forget Mr. Darcy. Mr. Bingley. Oh my goodness, he's so adorable. And Mr. Collins, the proposal to Lizzie just had me crying with laughter. It was just so funny. Maybe that's just my inner literary geek coming out, but it was hilarious, and the irony, and just Jane Austen, wonderful work with this book. I know you're not alive anymore, but this is a tribute to your awesomeness. And finally, I have Alice in Wonderland. Again, I don't have a copy. I really need to buy these books because I love them. But Alice in Wonderland, typical classic, and it's just fabulous. It's one of my favourite. It's just so funny. I can reread it over and over again. It's not very long, and it's just wonderful. It's so weird and wacky and crazy, and I think that's one of the best things about literature, is that you can be weird, wacky, wonderful, crazy, and all of these things roll into one without people looking at you weirdly. They'll just go, it's literally acclaimed. This is why, because people who love books can be weird. Anybody can be weird, but I think bookish people are verging on one of the weirdest, next to drama people. But yes. So that was my top 10 classics. Please don't be daunted by classics. I was for a while, and yes, don't be scared. Pick up a classic, and I hope this helps you delve into the world of classics in any way, because maybe my recommendations might help. I don't know. But thank you for watching, and please keep commenting, because I have been realising lately how much I love you guys commenting on my videos, and I love replying to your comments. So please do tell me if you have any favourite classics, or if you haven't read or have read some of the books that I've mentioned here, or if you have any recommendations for me. I'd love to hear from you, and any requests for videos, I love to hear from you guys for that, because as much as this channel is for my pleasure, it's also for yours. So let's wrap it up there, and I'm gonna go because the lighting is dimming very quickly.